Thank you. We will go ahead and call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock of the Maricopa Planning and Zoning Commission on Monday, October 12th. Invocation will be done by Commissioner Irving and the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Babb. Please stand.
Bow your heads. Dear Father, again, we're so thankful to be here and just so thankful for the day you've given us. Blessings. And we ask you to be with us as we go. Those people are dealing with the horrible weather around all this. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hopkins, Commissioner Yocum,
Here.
Vice Chair Sharp, Chair Huggins,
Here.
Commissioner Irving, Commissioner Frank,
Here.
Commissioner Babb.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Sorry. All right. Call the public. If you wish to speak, please complete a speaker card and submit to the chairman prior to the start of the meeting. The procedures to follow if you address a commission are: commission requests that you express your ideas in 5 minutes or less and refrain from any personal attacks or derogatory statements about any city employee, a fellow citizen, or anyone, whether in an audience or not. The chairman will limit discussion whenever she deems such an action appropriate to the proper conduct of the meeting. And this would just be for items that are not on the agenda. If there is anybody, please approach the podium. Seeing none, we'll move on. Okay. Approval of the previous minutes, please. Is there a motion?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Okay. 5.1, it is a DRP 20-09 development review permit, a request by iPlan Consulting on behalf of Eldorado Porter 27 LLC, requesting review and approval of site plan, landscape, photometric, and elevation plans for a proposed 194-unit single-story multifamily development generally located on the southeast corner of Bolin Road and Porter Road. Discussion and action.
Madam Chair, Commission, thank you. Like you mentioned, iPlan Consulting on behalf of Eldorado Holdings requesting approval for site plan, landscape, photometric, and elevations of a 194-unit single-story, multifamily development. Sorry. This is the third part of a three-part entitlement process. You've already approved the general plan amendment, the rezoning for the site, and we are now looking at the development review permit. Some information about the site: 25 acres of this is dedicated to the multifamily development, and it is currently zoned multi-unit residential. This is the site location, located on the southeast corner of Porter Road and Bolin Road. Here we can see a site plan showing access both from Bolin Road and Porter Road. The main access to the site will be aligning with the city's new Shea Way, which runs off of Porter as well. Here you can see a rendered landscape plan for the site. The developer has met all site plan or landscape regulations and requirements from the city, as well as open space requirements. Here are some elevations for some of the units that will be in this review. We want to commend the developer on their choice of colors and material mix. They were very receptive and very flexible with our requests during our review. And I won't get too into the elevations, as the applicant also has a presentation, and he'll be touching on this a little more. The development does include garages that can be rented by the residents. And again, we commend the developer on their use of different garage doors and materials to kind of enhance the look of these buildings. This is their main clubhouse. As you can see, this kind of showcases all their different materials and colors that they'll be using throughout the development. This is just a portion of the photometric plan. The entire plan was included in your documents packet for your review, but this is just a portion showing that they do meet all the requirements from the city for lighting and pedestrian and vehicular circulation areas. This is your criteria for approval. The overall design of the project, whether it is suitable environment for occupants, visitors, and the general community. The colors, materials, and landscaping are internally consistent and fully integrated with one another. That it is compatible with neighboring developments, and it is visually interesting built environment. As required by the zoning code, the site was posted and notification letters were mailed out to 300 feet to residents within 300 feet of the subject site. And as of the writing of this report, no comments were received. Staff finds the submittal of DRP 2009 to be substantially compliant with the zoning code, and staff recommends approval of DRP 2009, subject to the conditions set in the staff report. Before we take any questions from the commissioner, the applicant would like to do a presentation as well.
Thank you. I think that'd be a great idea. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Greg Davis with iPlan Consulting. I'm here on behalf of Eldorado Holdings and appreciate the time here before you tonight. As Peter mentioned, this is a follow-up to the zoning case. We weren't here for that, or Brad Hinton with Eldorado. There wasn't a lot of discussion about the project, so we did prepare a presentation to walk through, just kind of give you a flavor of this product, because even though it is a multifamily product, it's really an atypical type. It's really more similar to a single-family detached residential community, the way it lives and looks. So it's a new product that has seen a lot of success in some areas up in Queen Creek and in Phoenix. But Eldorado thinks that there's a lot of people in this community that are looking for this type of lifestyle, and so they're proposing it here. And it is a lifestyle type of product. So let me see if I can figure this. All right, so the site located at the southeast corner of Bolin and Porter Road. Everything in purple on your screen is actually owned by Eldorado Holdings, so it's about 65 acres. All of it was zoned commercial industrial. The balance of the property still is. You guys recommended approval for that rezoning a month and a half ago to what we have today. And this is the illustrative site plan that we have for it. It's approximately 20 acres in size. We have 194 units, so that equates to about 10 units per acre. For comparison, a typical multifamily apartment project will be in the 16 to 24 units per acre, and a single-family detached neighborhood to be 4 to 6. So you can see we're kind of blending those two. It makes a nice transitional project, which this is, because we have a lot of intense commercial to our south and our west, and then we have residential to our north. So it is a gated neighborhood as well. Our primary access is going to be off of Porter Road. Let's see if this works okay. All right, sorry about that. And the secondary access is going to be off Bolin Road to the north. As I mentioned, the REV product is more of a lifestyle. A lot of people move into this community that like the feeling and look of a neighborhood that's single-family detached homes, but don't want the maintenance responsibility or a yard to take care of or anything else. A lot of our clients are empty nesters or retirees or singles that like to lock and leave their home and not have to worry about it when they travel. So a lot of our residents also live in or work in the community that they're in. So we don't have a lot of young budding families that are traveling up the highway to Phoenix. A lot of the people that choose to live in this neighborhood will already be in your community because it's a lifestyle type of choice, not a price-driven product or anything like that. So part of the lifestyle, or part of the REV, is that all the homes are single level. So again, that single-family detached nature. We have both standalone homes and a duplex or semi-detached units, and then all the maintenance, as I mentioned, from the exterior of the walls to all the open space, streets, et cetera, is all taken care of by the Property Owners Association. Every home also has a private yard. Over 80% of our residents have dogs, and so it's a big priority for them and for us to put private yards with these units, which again is pretty atypical for a multifamily product. Every home comes with a doggy door built in as well. It's that popular of an amenity for them. One of the other reasons people choose this is the amenities. A single-family neighborhood, you usually have a yard. Sometimes you have a community park, but you don't have usually much else. This really has the amenities of a resort or of a large multifamily project, which is another attraction for it. The open space in general is over 20% of the site. We have buffers that meet or exceed all the code requirements along the perimeter of the property. And then we have several parks within the community for different purposes. Some are more active, some are passive. The one at the upper left is actually a dog park as well. So a lot of amenity opportunities in that capacity. But the primary focus is our main amenity area and clubhouse, which is located near the center of the project. And that's broken up into two components. The first is the clubhouse itself. These are the elevations for the clubhouse. It's approximately 4,000 square feet in size. Includes a game room, lounges, kitchen facilities, gym, offices for the management, and restrooms. And then the exterior of the site, which you can see here, focuses on the large pool. The pool is actually both a play pool and a lap pool. The large pool deck that's surrounding it has a spa jacuzzi, fountain. Just off to the right is the bocce ball court, cornhole court. There's an outdoor kitchen, fireplaces, shaded seating, etc. So fairly high level amenities for a multifamily type project. So the housing units themselves, they come in a different variety of configurations, but they're all 1, 2, or 3 bedroom. The vast majority of them are 1 and 2 bedroom because that's, again, what most of our residents are looking for. They range from 800 square feet to over 1,500 square feet in size. Again, they're all single level. They all have a private yard space, and all the maintenance is taken care of by the Property Owners Association. And we sometimes get questions about these buildings if they're, modular structures at all, and they're not. They're stick and brick built on site, just like a typical single-family detached neighborhood. So the homes themselves, we have 2 types of units. Basically, a standalone unit, which would be just a detached single-family house for the most part. Which you can see, we have 2 different plans here. These are the front elevations. We worked with staff to come up with a design that was both unique to our project, but also fit in with the Glenwild subdivision to the north, used materials and colors that would make a smooth, consistent transition. So obviously we have a stucco for the body. We use some veneers, mostly brick, which you can see there as a wainscoting. All the windows have treatments, whether it's awnings or shutters or a brick lintel, covered entries. The roofs are concrete tile, all S-curved tiles. And then we also use color blocking, which you can see in both these, that kind of help articulate the massing of the buildings, give them some character, some flavor, so that as you're walking through, it's not just one mass, one color of a building. So these are 2 of our attached units. And again, you can see that the materials and colors are consistent through our project. We used a little more color blocking on the larger units to help break up that plane. If there weren't for 2 doors, it does look like a large house, but the same material application applies. And then this is our largest unit with, again, all the same features and amenities that we've included on the other structures. I included the garage unit up there. I know it's in your packet, but that's usually one of the architecture items of consideration for municipalities. They're really concerned that the homes look good, but the garages look not so good. So we made sure to include architectural elements on those including the exposed rafter tails and the lintels above the doors and the wainscot chair rail. So at the zoning, there was some questions about traffic that came up, and we really didn't get a chance to answer them, but we did understand that that's an issue pretty much for a lot of projects in this corridor. So we actually did submit a traffic impact analysis with the zoning, but it wasn't really analyzed until the site plan project. So this slide was generated for the zoning aspect, so some of the terms aren't exactly correct anymore since it's already been rezoned. But the bottom line is, the city engineer did look at the traffic study. They did look at the level of service for all the roads, and they did find them acceptable. The TIA actually shows a significant reduction in traffic over what the zoning was for the site. The zoning was commercial industrial, and so this land use equates to about a 60% drop in potential traffic that could be in this area. So yes, it's going to be more traffic than there is today, but the zoning change and the approval of this project will actually result in a lot less traffic than if we would have just stuck with what we had before. And the fact that the project entrance is off of Porter Road, that helps kind of keep traffic down on Bolin. We know that with the school on Bolin, it has a couple peak times of traffic issues. So the large majority of our traffic will use the Porter Road access, which will hopefully limit the impact to the existing traffic patterns in the area. And that concludes my presentation, and be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
All right, thank you. I'm sure we're going to have quite a bit. So we'll start on that side and we'll work our way around. Commissioner Hopkins. Speak up.
I'm quiet. I don't have any questions, but I am very excited about the project. I think it's something unique that we don't have, and a lot of demand for something like that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Yoakum.
I don't have any questions at this time until I hear what the other commissioners have to say, but the one feature I saw, which you did not mention, which I thought was innovative and certainly with the times, is that of the enclosed garages, 22 of them are going to have 50 amp electrical service for electrical cars. It's the first time I've seen that offered by any developer here in Maricopa. So thank you.
You can thank your staff for that, because they did push for that. It's something we already offered, but the amount of units we did increase due to staff's request.
Now, is that going to be standard with the home, or is that an upcharge?
The garages are a separate rental, so if you have an electric car and you want one, there's an opportunity to rent a garage that has that service, but it's not a standard.
Oh, so these are all rentals?
Correct, yes.
Commissioner Batten.
I think you just answered my question. These are all units for rental and none for purchase, is that correct?
Yeah, correct. The Eldorado Holdings will retain ownership of it, and they'll act as a typical multifamily apartment, but the lifestyle is a lot different, but they are all owned and maintained by Eldorado Holdings.
Okay. And you kept mentioning lifestyle. You'd mentioned a few different groups of individuals that might be interested. Those older couples, those younger individuals, those really tied to the community. With COVID-19 and the way work has shifted, do you envision, or is there in your project, in any of these homes, like an office space that you guys have built in for allowing home office type work?
That's a very good question, and that's one of the reasons we've added the third story. A lot of the existing projects don't have that, but we've seen a lot of demand for office space or extra guest room space because people are traveling to see each other versus destinations. So we have added that as an option, just specifically due to the change in lifestyle that we've seen in the last few months.
Okay. And have you worked with any of the local internet providers to pull in better service than we offer today in any of our existing neighborhoods?
I don't believe they've talked to anybody about that at this stage, but I'm sure that they will as we get into the construction document level.
Perfect. And the trips for the traffic, are there any specific peak times based off of the lifestyles that you've seen at your prior properties that you anticipate that are outside of normal peak hours?
The existing communities that we've had or studied as part of the traffic analysis, they don't see as much of a spike with the morning and afternoons. There is still a spike in the morning. A lot of people leave, whether they're working locally or distant. But the majority of our traffic is spread out through the day, much more than a typical suburban neighborhood or apartment project.
Okay. And I just want to reiterate what you said. I think I know with this zoning, we reduced potential traffic impact in that area based off what it was with an industrial zoning where we could have put a big box store, any number of items that could have generated a lot of traffic.
Right.
But now it's a residential, it's more stable. So I think that's a great win for the city. But also this project's a great win too. It's very unique. When we think multifamily dwellings, we think apartment complexes and ugly-looking duplexes, but these are gorgeous-looking facilities, and my hat's off to you guys. Great work. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Commissioner Frank.
So yeah, I as well, I think it's a very nice-looking product, and I commend you for bringing something that's not the typical multifamily to our city here. The one question I had in looking at the plans is that it seemed like the parking spaces and the sidewalks were rather small. I just wondered, maybe this is a question maybe for staff to refresh my memory, what a typical parking stall might be in our city. I don't recall what our specific guidelines are.
Yeah, I'll defer to staff on that. I know we meet those requirements, but I'm not sure what they are off the top of my head. I haven't answered it.
Commissioner Frank, a standard parking stall is going to be 9 by 18, I believe. And I believe ADA requirements for accessibility call out a minimum of 5-foot sidewalks, which they do meet completely.
The dimensions I remember seeing were 9 by 16s, but they did have a 2.5-foot overhang built in to it.
And that's allowed, yes.
Right, and then the sidewalk was set back from that, which I think is a good design. But the sidewalk dimension I remember seeing was 4 foot.
And it could be. That's something that was vetted through our building and safety department as well.
Right, yeah, so just as I understand where we're at, but just as a reminder to staff to look at that later, because that's a smaller sidewalk than what MAG typically would allow.
Sure.
Of course, this is a private development, but just myself driving a big vehicle, those little spots like that always cause me trouble. So if we can get bigger ones, that'd be great. Thank you.
Commissioner Irving.
There we go. Yeah, a couple questions. I know Chair Huggins is quite often asked about expanding the comments out a little further. I'm really curious about community responses because there are 7 schools in that area, 2 apartment complexes, and I like the project, will support the project, but just from, I think part of our responsibility is to respond to our citizens about that area. I'm just wondering what kind of feel we got, because there are a lot of new homes on both sides of Porter now, about any reaction from citizens, especially if we really made an effort to reach out more. I was just curious.
Commissioner Irving, we've followed the city department's outreach, and we've received 0 response.
Standing. And the other question, again, my big issue is traffic. Again, maybe more toward the city, because again, you're going to major exit off of Porter, which is fine. I guess, again, I'm concerned about, will you only be able to just make a certain turn, or will you be able to cross, make turns going west? And then on Bowen, too, again, Bowen's just gone through, so traffic is going to greatly increase because we get that flow of traffic now in from Tortosa that we didn't have before. So, again, I guess and it's probably more a city question, if all that's been taken into consideration about turn lanes, one of the schools is a college, so their traffic pattern isn't as consistent as the other schools. Just again, to make sure we don't create, like we had before out in Tortosa, with a real traffic jam that the citizens are complaining about.
Gladly.
Oh, the big dogs are here. You're in trouble now.
Good evening,
My life
Madam
is
Chair,
in-
Commissioner Irving. I would like to let you know that we have taken all that into account in our
Good.
review of their traffic impact analysis. One of the early things we asked them to do was adjust the alignment of their Porter Road access so that it aligns with the access to the west, so that we can have a single intersection there with full movements going all directions rather than something offset that could create conflicts.
Yeah, thank you. And again, I just think it's important for the citizens to know that you did take that into consideration. Other than that, I think it's, like everybody said, it's an outstanding project the city can be proud of.
I have a couple things that I wanted to bring up. I am looking at document, kind of off of this one, it's on page 4. I was concerned about the pedestrian exit points. On this page 4 of 5, it's showing where all the fence lines are and everything else like that. One pedestrian gate corridor, and there's no pedestrian gates, on Boland, but there's no pedestrian gates on Porter. So I'm a little concerned about that because Porter is the main access point, and I'm not showing any pedestrian gates on there at all, where I am seeing the pedestrian gate on the Boland exit area.
Madam Commissioner, you're correct. I mean, everything I see is correct. That I don't know if it was something that we just missed, or I don't think it was done on purpose that we wouldn't have pedestrian access out to Porter. We do expect to have a small commercial corner, which will provide access to, so maybe they thought that with that they didn't need to provide access out to the Porter, but it's something that we'd gladly add if that's the Commission's desire.
I think it's very important considering that Porter is more of an area that I think that they're going to be walking out of, especially since they're going to be going to the Walmart area and all that other stuff, and I think that's very, very important. But you also hit on my other point, which is that commercial area that's going to be on the corner of that property as well. It's showing that there is a fence that's going all the way around that, and from experience, residential, and you have that with a block wall separating a commercial, that block wall is going to continuously be vandalized because they're going to want to take shortcuts. So I would suggest that somewhere along in this area as well, creating some sort of pedestrian access. And until it's built, you can probably keep it locked up. But then when it's built, for the fact that you're going to have to be replacing that fence a lot, it would be very wise to do it at the construction point instead of down the line.
Correct. Madam Commissioner, agree. We have talked about it, and we do plan on having one in there. I think the reason it's not shown is we just don't know where the appropriate place is for it yet. But again, if you'd like to stipulate that be part of the approval, we'd be glad to accept that.
I would like to see that as part of the stipulation on that. And the only other comments that I had is looking at your, not necessarily a plat, but your legend for landscaping. I'm confused on it because it says, it says replacement of dead trees along arterial and collector streets shall be the individual property owners or the homeowners association and shall be completed. Property owners notified by the city. I'm kind of a little confused because I thought these were rentals.
Correct, and I think that's probably a standard note, but the property owner would be Eldorado Holdings. Instead of an HOA, it's a property owners association, a POA.
Right, so then I guess I'm just saying that we might want to get that cleaned up a little bit
Sure.
to point that out.
No problem.
And I think that's all I've got. Other than that, it looks like a phenomenal project, and I'm pretty excited about
Great, thank you.
seeing it. Welcome.
Comment and a question. I was also impressed with the vehicular access gates and the way that you have them going off to the left and the right of the clubhouse, because that will help as far as parking, obstruction for parking for guests and for residents. I thought that was somewhat imaginative and creative. I like that.
Oh, thank you.
I just have one question. I know apartment complexes, and this happened in the early days of Maricopa. I'm sure it's not with this development, but I want to ask the question, and that is, are you going to have a preferred cable service provider, or is it open to whomever comes into town?
Commissioner Yoakum, I don't know that answer. Those are utility questions we typically don't get into until we start our final design of our site plan. I can't answer whether Eldorado's made that decision or not.
Okay, thank you.
All right, this is a discussion in action. Is there any other questions or comments? If not, I will take...
I'd like to make a motion that we approve.
I was going to say I would like to hear a motion to include the stipulations that were set forth with the fencing and the pedestrian gates.
I agree with those two stipulations.
So I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And I have a motion and a second. Any other comments?
I'm sorry, do we need to open the public hearing for this?
Discussion in action.
Okay.
The public hearing's next. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you done yet? Is it built yet?
We're on it. Soon.
I don't think you're going to have any problems renting these out, to be honest with you.
Thank you, we appreciate that.
All right. All right, 5.2, public hearing, PAD 20-02, public hearing, PAD 20-01, McDavid Estates, a request by CVL Consultants on behalf of Maricopa 64 Partners LLC to rezone 66.10 acres from general rural GR and industrial CI2 to planned area development PAD zoning district, including modified development standards. The property is generally located on the northeast corner of Hodgetts Boulevard and McDavid Road. Discussion and action.
Madam Chair, thank you. As you mentioned, this is a request to rezone to a PAD rezoning designation that includes modified development standards. So we are at the second step of a four-step development process here. First step was the general plan amendment, which you've already approved. We're here for the rezoning. Step 3 will be a preliminary plat, which you will see again. And then step 4 is the final plat, which will go directly to City Council. The site is approximately 66 acres of vacant land, currently zoned general rural and industrial, with a general plan designation of medium density and mixed use. This is the subject site. It's located on the northeast corner of Hodgetts Boulevard and McDavid Road. It is made up of two separate parcels, and you'll see that in one or two more slides. This is the existing zoning. That first parcel is at the top in green, zone GR, general rural. And this second parcel is the larger one at the bottom, zone CI2, industrial. Here is the proposed zoning. Both parcels would move on to a PAD zoning designation. And this is the general plan amendment, or general plan, which you've already amended and approved. This is just a conceptual development plan. This is not what you'll be approving today, but this is just kind of to give you an idea of what the subdivision could look like and how it could be built. Here's a conceptual connectivity plan of how pedestrians could be connected in and around the subdivision Again, this is purely conceptual. The PAD includes our single-family residential design guidelines. Having these guidelines embedded in the PAD allows us to bring better, more diverse housing product to the city. This is guidelines that are normally already applied to all single-family residential projects, but having them in the PAD really solidifies and brings home the point that we are not taking subpar product. And hopefully these conceptual images on the screen right now kind of give you an idea of the type of product we could expect with this PAD. This is the walls that will be lining in the subdivision, as well as the entry monument signs. And here's another picture of the entry monument. The PAD development standard, so a PAD is a type of zoning that allows us to modify the zoning code and exchange certain things with the developer. So for example, the developer wanted smaller, narrower lots, and in exchange we're getting increase in maximum density, reduction in minimum setbacks, modification and enhancement of outdoor and open space areas, the inclusion of those single-family residential design guidelines that I mentioned before are going to allow for more flexible and creative single-family residential product here in the city, or in the subject site to be specific, as well as enhanced architectural requirements for single-family residential product, and enhanced street design, which include detached sidewalks and decorative streetlights. As of the time of me creating this presentation, there were no formal comments received by staff. The site was posted. Notifications went out in the Maricopa Monitor and the Casa Grande Dispatch, and notification letters were sent out to property owners within 600 feet of the subject site, per the Commission's request. Required findings. The following findings are in your recommendation to the City Council. The amendment is consistent with the general plan, subdivision ordinance, and any applicable master plans of the city, and the site is physically suitable for the type and intensity of the land use being proposed. Oh, one more. Development carries out a more efficient use of the land and an excellence of architecture and site design. Staff recommends the approval of PAD 2001, subject to the conditions of approval stated in the staff report and as amended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Once again, before I take any questions, the applicant does have a presentation that they would like to share with you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Court Rich from the Rose Law Group. I'm here today with the owner of the project, Mr. Chase Emerson, and with Ryan Weed from Cohen Van Loo, who are the engineers and designers of the project. So I know recently my law partner Jordan Rose was here and presented to you the general plan amendment for this project. So you're familiar with it. That was the first step, as your staff just said. You approve that general plan amendment, and this is the next step. So hopefully what you see will be not new to you and will be familiar, and I'm prepared to answer some of the questions that I know you all asked last time and wanted to see us address this time. So I'll go through the project here for you. One, I know you've already discussed the ultimate use here, but it's important in that what we're doing is we're changing from what was going to be an industrial area, which the general plan now shows it as this residential area. The number one benefit, at least from my perspective, of that was that the world has changed since this was originally planned, and the idea of having semi trucks rolling by a high school and these other residential communities there into the industrial center just doesn't make sense now based on the way the city is developed. And obviously you all agreed with that last time by approving the general plan amendment. But this is just to sort of remind you of that. Currently the site does not look pretty. And we're excited to be able to go in there and have the opportunity to make it a really nice part of Maricopa. I already touched on the traffic just insofar as I mentioned the semi trucks that were going to be going in there, but in fact the traffic count will be reduced with this use based on the industrial use that was already approved there. And so that's going to be a benefit. We believe the nearby school in particular will benefit from reduced traffic in the long run. One of the questions that I know was left to us from last time was to explain the traffic situation in a little more detail. And since the last meeting, we've had a chance to work with your city manager, and we're excited to have reached an agreement with them. You see in this location where that yellow circle is, the applicant has agreed to fund 20% of whatever, whether it's a traffic circle or a stoplight. It's up to the city to decide. We've reached an agreement to fund that portion of it, even though it's as you can see, significantly far away from the development itself. That was the point where the city was interested in us helping to pay for and help support the city in making some traffic improvements. So this should be a great benefit to those that are accustomed to to going into the high school area there or in and out of the surrounding neighborhoods. So we're happy to be able to report that to you. This is just another I think, reflection on what staff said. We've got a variety of different lot sizes. We're excited to be able to offer different products. There's a mixed use area where you could see products like you just saw, in fact, with multifamily or Z lots or smaller products along with the various lot sizes within the community. Where you saw the pictures earlier from staff, but it's worth mentioning that this is designed to be in keeping with the Heritage District standards. There was a question I know that was left to us from last time about the utility services, and so we've gone back and we are working with Global. You'll see in the top left corner there is the 10 acres, which we've decided to put into a phase 2. That portion of the property received some of its services from Maricopa Consolidated, the water services. And so what we're doing is we're working with Global and with the city, and that section won't be able to develop until or unless Global Water has come in and agreed to serve water, or we've otherwise solved the water situation for that site. But rest assured that there's no chance of that phase 2 developing without water, obviously, and your staff and the developer have been in conversations about that. And that's just what I told you. So the other issue, I think, of kind of the main issues that were left to us from last time was a desire to have some more information about the floodplain situation. And so here's a floodplain map. Oops, hit that twice at once. Sorry about that. So you're aware that the city has been working with Entellus, the engineer, and FEMA to go ahead, and there's a lot of the floodplains within the city are changing, and there's maps that are being redrawn. The good news is that the proposal that the city has come up with and is working with FEMA on would remove about 90% of this from the floodplain already. By redrawing, they're acknowledging that most of this actually isn't in the floodplain if you do the math right and you look at where the floodplain is supposed to be. Now the rest of it will be channelized. The water that comes onto the site today will have to leave the site in the same manner that it did before, and we're using that as a good opportunity to, along the railroad there. It's a benefit, frankly. We have a large buffer area, and we can use that open space and multi-purpose it for open space for the community, a buffer from the railroad, and to be able to carry some of the floodplain water through the site. Here's just some quick notes on some of the amenities that are planned. There will be connectivity with trails both within the site and then to off-site as well. to allow for connectivity on trails throughout the city. And let me see what else. That's not all that exciting. So I think that's all I have. I know because I wasn't here last time. I still hope that Jordan told me all the issues that you raised last time and that I got them all for you. But if not, let me know. We've got all the answers in the room if there's anything else you want to hit on. But we're really excited to move forward with this. It's just a continuation of what you all did last time. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, this is also a public hearing, so we will go ahead and open up the public hearing at, like to speak, please approach the podium. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing then. Commissioners, questions, comments? Let's start on this side. Commissioner Babb?
Thank you, Chair. So just to clarify, to make sure I heard that correctly, the second phase of your project will not be developed until global water goes into that area. Is that correct?
Chairman, Commissioner, yes, that's correct. Or there's otherwise a solution for the water, but that seems like the only solution.
So there is currently no water in that area. Is that what I'm understanding?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And then my next question's around traffic as well. I know that you've worked with the city and offered to help out with traffic control devices. My question is to city staff, really, the existing streets, how are we at capacity handling traffic flow along those existing streets? Because I know since the redesign and traffic flow on those existing streets, since the overpass, it's even with no traffic, it seems a little crazy to drive those streets at times.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Babb, the purpose for the traffic signal or roundabout at the intersection of Maricopa Road and Honeycutt is to address what is the greatest point of congestion throughout this area. We've also, you may recall from previous discussions on another project, the city is exploring an overpass at the Green Road alignment over the Union Pacific Railroad that would allow a tie-in to State Route 238 from the west side of this region. So we are working through capital projects, through development projects to address the traffic in the area, any traffic that will be generated. This one in particular is not going to generate as much as the other one where we're really looking at the overpass.
Those existing streets, if we go back to the map, I forget what road that was.
Map that the applicant had up was great.
McDavid Road. Is that I believe that's a 2-lane road. Is that accurate?
Correct.
It is 2-lane. Could it support the additional traffic on that 2-lane road from this subdivision?
Yes, we believe it's got the capacity to handle this. Really, it's at the intersections that is the greatest concern. It's not the capacity of the volume of the road itself right now. It's a little bit tight at Maricopa and Edwards, not as bad as Maricopa and Honeycutt. With the traffic signal or roundabout there, we hope to be able to address all of those concerns.
Would the goal be to have the traffic signal or roundabout online at the same time as the project?
Probably ahead of.
Ahead of them?
Yes, the city is working on that as a capital project right now.
Okay.
So I don't know what their schedule is, but we would anticipate seeing construction on that next year.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I just kind of want to, if you can just give me a minute, guys, I would like to just kind of build on that for a second, if we could. So looking at this map, I'm concerned that the roundabout that you're talking about would be sufficient considering there's a high school right there. Are we assured that that high school and then the junior high down the street, or yeah, it's a junior high down the street, that's going to be sufficient?
Yes, Madam Chair, if we do a roundabout there, we're still in the analysis process right now to determine if it's going to be a roundabout or it's going to be a traffic signal. If it is a roundabout, it will be a multi-lane roundabout, which will have the capacity to carry the vehicles moving along Honeycutt, coming from the high school and anything else in the development to the west, excuse me, the left on your map. If it is a traffic signal, obviously it will be signaled and phased to handle that capacity as well.
So with that being said, I mean, I get what we're talking about right here, but also knowing that, like you had brought up, Edwards and Maricopa Road also is the back way for the high schoolers to go to school, as well as now this project. Is that not going to be an area of concern for traffic as well?
Not an additional area of concern because of this development, because schools and the development, you tend to have different peak times of traffic coming and going. We do recognize that the high school uses that route frequently, and it can get a little tight there during peak times, and it's something we're working to address separately, but it won't be exacerbated by this development. We just find it's something that overall needs to be addressed in terms of flow from the high school.
Right, because my concern is, and it's on the agenda for the next one, which is the proposed hospital area. I mean, it's all right there in this one area. That's why I was concerned that a roundabout may not be sufficient, because people are going to want to try to go every which way, and I'm just concerned that we've thought about the potential down the road, because I'd hate to see us spend money on a roundabout and then all of a sudden find out that it's not going to be sufficient and then have to re-spend money for a traffic light instead.
Right, no, absolutely. A roundabout is a very high volume traffic control method. And as I said, we'd be looking at a multi-lane roundabout, so it'd be very high capacity.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to hijack, but I figured since we were talking about it, it would be a good segue. Commissioner Frank.
Okay, yeah, so generally I'm a big fan of roundabouts, so I like this idea if they're used properly.
Right, that was my concern.
Right. I think there's definitely a place for them. I did read in the staff, I can't remember now, maybe it's the narrative, about the traffic study and such, and we're running at a level of service D, and that's acceptable. I know we talked about that a little bit once before, but that still kind of bugs me a little bit. If my daughters brought home a D on something, I wouldn't find that acceptable. So that's a little too close to the other letters. So hopefully the roundabout and your study will show that the roundabout will help that a little bit here. The few times I've found myself over there trying to get off of Maricopa Road onto Honeycutt at the wrong time of day, it's like almost impossible, just the way things line up, yeah. So, yeah, that's one issue. The other, and thanks for showing us the new updated floodplain map there. As some of you know, I'm the president of the Maricopa Flood Control District. And something that we all need to make sure we're working together on is we're working on a CLOMAR for the Desert Cedars area. And part of the solution pushes more water over to the west, and I believe it goes down the channel over there on the Green Road alignment. So I don't know how that all impacts. Our consultant is evaluating that and the impacts of that, but I just want to make sure we all dovetail together where we should and don't wind up doing something that impacts the other one adversely. So it's just kind of an FYI on that.
And just Commissioner Frank, to assure you, Entellus is aware of that study, and I know that David Alley has spoken to them, both your consultant and my consultant, about that, so they are working together to understand what the impacts of that analysis are.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Commissioner Irving.
Yeah, just a comment about the area and the roundabout about the high school and the middle school. For about 40 minutes, the high school's out at 220. No roundabout's going to solve that. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, there are close to 40 buses coming out of there. I guess I'm just saying that I don't think people should begin to believe that there's anything you could totally do to solve an issue of a high school. It's 2,800 kids, a lot of them bus. You're just not going to do it. But again, usually that flow doesn't last that long, but there's nothing that could solve all those buses. The middle school doesn't get out till 4. So I think, again, anybody who's tried to get in that area from about 2:20 to 2:45. You just can't do it. So again, but I think that's typical of any large high school. So I guess I wouldn't want people to say, oh, this is going to solve that. It's not going to solve it between 2:30 and 3. It is what it is.
Point taken and understood. Commissioner Yocum.
I too am concerned and interested in see how we're going to continue to address the roundabout light issue and also the flooding drainage issues.
Chairman, Commissioner Yocum, I'm happy to, if you have more specific questions, we can speak to those. I know we have submitted our drainage report, I think, all to the city already, and it's either maybe been approved or there haven't been any comments back yet. So I know we've gotten even additional information to the city staff that they've reviewed on that front, and I certainly agree. I mean, having lived near a school in my history, yes, when it gets out, the school gets out, and people live near schools all over the place, and that's just what happens. But the residents will no doubt know when that happens and understand, if they want to avoid that, what they can do. But just one more thought is certainly the current zoning, semi trucks trying to get through there at this time of day is probably far less compatible than what we're proposing. So
I know we're going to be seeing this again, so I'm interested in seeing what you bring back to us.
Sure, and the preliminary plat will have much more detail, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hopkins.
I have no questions, but I also agree. I much rather would see residential cars going through there than semi-trucks. So I think it's a great project for that area.
Thank you.
Awesome. As for me, maybe we can have a slight discussion on the Phase 2 water issue that Commissioner Babbitt brought up. I was not aware of that until tonight, so I'm a little confused and a little concerned about that, because I guess the comment was that unless there is an agreement with Global Water, then it's not going to move forward, and I would really not like to see that kind of happen. So if we can talk about that a little bit.
Madam Chair, yes, thank you. So as far as water concerns at the moment, that can definitely be brought up at the pre-plat stage. Right now, the applicant still does have some time to resolve those issues. And for this submittal and this discussion right now, we are concerned about the rezoning.
I get that, but my problem is if we rezone that entire area for it and it does not happen, then we're left with kind of the same situation, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
You have a point, Madam Chair.
That's kind of why I wanted to bring up the discussion. Yes. I mean, I get the fact that you guys are in talks. So I guess maybe the better question would be, is the Maricopa water available there? I know you're trying to tie into Global, but isn't Maricopa District, I don't even remember the name of it, isn't that already tied into that area as part of the Heritage District?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, my name is Ryan Weed. I work with Cole & Van Loo Engineering. I'm a civil engineer by trade. Our office address is 4550 North 12th Street in Phoenix. The situation is that the northern tip of the triangle, approximately 10 acres, the way the Corporation Commission boundaries for the different water service areas, it's left that small triangle historically within the Maricopa Water District service area. And I imagine that was probably established, sometime after the railroad came through. I'm sure that was there first, but it probably took place as a result of section lines and portions of sections broken down. There's currently no water service from the Maricopa Water Service area to the south side of the railroad tracks in that area. But in addition to that, they're really restricted to the amount of water that they have within the Maricopa Facilities District. So for us to expect water service from that utility provider, it's just not there. So what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to remove that small portion of the northern portion of our triangle from their district and place it into Global's water service area. But in order for that to happen, some negotiation needs to take place between the two water providers. And that takes time. It takes time for those two parties to agree to not service an area and then the other party to service that area. And then, of course, it takes time to go through the state and regulatory process to help allow that to even happen legally. So for those things to take place, what we're asking at this point is that you'll consider rezoning the entire property residential, and then eventually that will become, we're asking for now, we're letting you know that that'll be a phase 2 of our preliminary plat, and ultimately we hope that we will see it develop. There's obviously, the time is the issue. It's not whether or not it will develop, it's just at what time will it develop, depending on when we can get the two parties, the two utility providers to come to some sort of agreement.
So Maricopa Water, just to clarify, has no interconnects on the south side of the tracks?
Well, that would be something that would be great to see, is some sort of interconnect or some sharing, if you would, of a service area. That's been done in the past many times between utility providers, where some benefit, I think, could be given to Maricopa Water District in exchange for global servicing that area. But again, those are just things that take some time to resolve.
And this is probably for city staff, and I'm sorry for jumping in here. How much more of this area do we have that is with Maricopa Water that's out beyond this parcel on the south side of the tracks? Is it a lot? Is it a little bit? Do we know?
I mean, offhand, I just going by from memory on the maps, I don't think there's a large area that, I mean, most of this area is global. Most everything surrounding the really the heart or the historical downtown area, if you will, of Maricopa is served by global.
Madam Chair,
we're talking about a large service area.
Madam Chair, we're getting a little sidetracked. If we could just stay focused on the rezone for this parcel and not start talking about different parcels.
There was a reason why I was going down this path to try
I wasn't concerned about that. What I was concerned about, and I didn't want to interrupt, but thank you for chiming in. Do we stand as a city in any type of legalities if, for whatever reason, the negotiations fall through? Since there's no water connectivity there, we rezone this in this manner. I mean, where does the city stand? That's what my concern is.
Well, you could rezone it, and then you'd have the preliminary plat where you can put restrictions on it at that point, but they're just coming for the rezone now. If it didn't have an agreement or anything like that, then they wouldn't move forward with the second phase of that as they're developing right now, because they put that as a stipulation for moving forward.
Okay, so then I guess if we go ahead and rezone it, and again, this is all just about the rezoning that I'm asking these questions for. It's got nothing to do with what can happen or what not can happen. But if we rezone this in this manner and something does happen where they cannot get that water, and let's say they want to make it something else, can they go backwards again and ask for another rezone to make it something else?
Yeah, at that point, they can bring it back to rezone to a different zoning designation.
Right. Okay, that's what I was concerned about. So if this does not pan out, then they can do whatever necessary down the line.
Correct, and it looks like the applicant has something to state.
Madam Chairman, I was just going to add that, by rezoning this, you really help the developer and the city get a little more motivation to go and solve this issue. And so, if it's remaining in a way with a zoning that it's not going to be developed, there's probably less incentive on behalf of the landowner and the city to go and make it work out urgently. And certainly Global will be more motivated to step in and if this is a viable project with a land use that's going to develop, to go in and figure the problem out. So that's our hope, is that by you doing this rezoning, it only helps us. We know it's our risk, it's not the city's risk. And if we need to come back because something changes, we'll have to come back and ask you to let us do that, whatever that is, so.
Oh, I totally agree. Like I said, I was just looking for the legalities of it because you made the comment it was going to be phase 2, and I'm like, uh-oh, we may have a problem. So I just needed a clarification on the legalities, and I'm sorry for allowing it to go down the side path for a few minutes. But this is a discussion in action, so if there's any other comments, I'll take a motion. Okay, there is a motion and a second. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Hopefully you can spur Global Water.
Thank you.
Still not betting on it, but you can try. Not ours. Exactly. All right. Next item, guys, 5.3, developmental review permit, DRP 20-10, a request by Callaway Architect on behalf of BMH Construction requesting review and approval of a site plan, landscape, photometric, and elevation plans for a proposed 20,752 square feet clinic hospital, generally located on the northwest corner of on Honeycutt Highway and John Wayne Parkway. Discussion and action. Sorry, you just make those so long.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, as stated, this request by Callaway Architecture on behalf of Exceptional Healthcare is requesting a proposed 20,705 clinic hospital on the northwest corner of Honeycutt Avenue and John Wayne Parkway. Site information, the site acreage is 3.19 acres. It is existing a vacant site today with a general plan land use of employment. Existing zoning is general rural, general business zone, and overlay zone of mixed-use heritage, and the proposed use of a clinic and hospital, which is permitted use within the GR and mixed-use heritage overlay. The subject site shown in the yellow star borders Honeycutt Avenue to the south, Maricopa Road to the west, and John Wayne Parkway, State Route 347 to the east. As it relates to the development process, this application is in the third step in the planning process. After approval for this request, the project will move on with the building and civil permit afterwards. Here's a site plan depicting building location, parking area, and access drives. Here is the proposed landscape plan. And here are the proposed color elevations with the highest building structure tapping out at 32 feet 9 inches. The applicant has worked diligently with staff to provide a mixture of roof planes, building materials, along with screening of rooftop mechanical equipment and setting the bar somewhat high, enhancing the architectural design standards for the general area itself. Here's the photometric plan showing the required lighting levels. What you don't see, what you don't see are the proposed lighting fixtures, which will have a decorative look to help establish enhanced design standards within the general area for future developments within the area. The criteria for approval by the Commission shall be based on the following: overall design of the project, suitable environment for occupants, visitors, and general community, colors, materials, and landscaping are internally consistent, fully integrated with one another, compatible with a neighboring development, and visually interesting built environment. All items listed and are supported by staff as meet the criteria, and further analysis can be found in your staff report, page 4. As required by the zoning code, the project has met all required notification requirements, which included the sign posting on the property and going above the standard of mailing notices from the property subject property of 300 feet to 600 feet. To this date, staff has not received any comments for or against the project. With that being said, staff finds the submitted items of DRP 20-10 to be compliant with zoning code section 18.155.070. Staff recommends approval of the subject to the conditions stated in the staff report. Madam Chair, Commissioners, the applicant is here to answer any questions if there's any, as well as staff. I'll be more than happy to answer any. Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you. We'll start on this side this time. Commissioner Hopkins.
Have any questions?
Commissioner Yoakum?
My only concern is the helipad and making sure that staff report indicates we are going to make sure that we have all the county, state, and federal aviation contacts. And that's my only comment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Problem. Commissioner Babb.
I'm excited. This is an awesome project from Maricopa, a long time coming.
No, it only has 10 beds.
Even though it only has 10 beds, it's a long time coming. It's fantastic. And Commissioner Yoakum made my point about the helipad, but thank you.
Mr. Frank.
So similar to my question about parking on the apartment project earlier, the site plan that I saw here didn't even have dimensions listed. So I was unable to verify what was happening here as far as the parking layout in relation to the sidewalk and the overhang and everything. But I'm sure that'll be vetted out. Then I saw the roundabout, future roundabout there, and that I see that impacts the retention and some of the parking on this site. So I guess the idea that, okay, the roundabout design is still fluid, then how do we know how big it is and how does that really impact what's happening here? And will we have enough retention and enough parking if the roundabout is to happen? So that was one of my questions.
So, Madam Chair, Commissioner Frank, the roundabout that's shown here is really just an overlay for concept. It doesn't depict necessarily what the configuration of the roundabout would be. As we go through design for our capital project, we would look for something that impacts the site to the lowest degree possible, probably more of an oval shape than a circular shape roundabout. So this does not in any way really reflect the reality of what that would be.
So that's good. So we'll just make sure that we're maintaining the minimum retention and parking
That's correct.
if that's to happen.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's see, anything else? No, but I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Irving. The only thing that I wanted to bring up is the fact that, once again, it looks like a boilerplate for the plat was used, and it talks about homeowners association.
Yeah, it
don't
is a
think there's a-
boilerplate condition, so we could start modifying that to be somewhat specific by the development itself, whether if it's a property management association or a homeowners association.
Yeah, I think we need to start making sure that that's happening, because we're getting a lot of diversities of things coming in, so I don't think that hospitals have homeowners association.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I think it's a great
Madam
idea.
Chair, Commissioners, I think Saeed, the owner, would like to just take a couple, just speak about the project real quick, if you can.
Sure. Please state your name for the record, address for the record, please.
Madam Speaker, this is Saeed Mahboubi. I reside in Dallas, Texas, 1100 South Eckerd, Dallas, Texas, 75215.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. This is we're very excited about expanding to Arizona. Our first location is going to be Maricopa. We are planning 6 locations in the next 2 years. Maricopa would be the flagship of our new design. We have hired Callaway architects and engineers to come up with our plans and provide all the required engineering for this project, which Scott, the president of Callaway Architects, is here. As one of you, I think, Ms. Higgins, you mentioned that this is going to have 10 hospital beds and 10 ER beds. That's the game plan. Plus, we're going to have a small, probably medical office or urgent care in there. Currently, we're working with adjacent property owners to acquire the land for expansion. So that's going to be the key for adding more rooms. What we found out, when we came to Maricopa, we thought, oh, a small town, easy, find some land, get it under construction. It took me almost a year to find the lot we found. With great difficulty and help of city staff, we landed this. So now the next phase is to get more land, possibly 2 to 4 acre, so we can add, if we need cath labs, surgical center, MOBs, whatever we need to make this provide more services for people. I've been acting as one of the partners and CFO of Exceptional Health since 2015. We started with 0 in 2015. Now we have 15 locations around Texas, and Arizona would be our second home, and we're very excited. If anyone has any questions as far as our facility, let me know. I'll be glad to answer it.
Yeah, just welcome and just be prepared to expand quickly because I don't think 10 beds is going to last but maybe 10 minutes.
That's what we want to hear. That's what we want to see. Another thing I wanted to talk about is November 13 is our groundbreaking. We like to invite everyone here to attend. Due to COVID-19, we have limitation on the number of people, so we're scheduling morning, noon, and afternoon session, so we can have, apparently it's 50 people per session, so we can have 50 people there. We'll have music, food, drinks. It'll be a classy thing. It would be something to remember.
You might want to think about having a virtual camera there. You'll get a lot of people on it.
Yeah. So anyway,
I think
that's what I
everybody's-
wanted to say. And in terms of our architects and engineers and us, we have made a commitment to the city staff that because they really went out of their way to rush this thing so we can be open next year this time, hopefully, before the flu season and COVID-21, God forbid, show up.
That's why we're
So-
saying you need more than 10 beds.
Yeah, so that's, we're actually 20 beds.
Okay, well,
So, and about 5 beds for urgent care, 20 beds, ER and hospital. So we're really 25 beds.
you're still going to fill them up.
Yeah, I mean, the reason is we can always convert and use one for the other. But that's hopefully next year we'll address that. But make sure everyone attends. We want to see all of you there. And we're going to do everything in our power to get this up and running as soon as possible. Our equipment here is going to be state of art. We're purchasing things that are just now coming out, the CT scans and the X-ray equipment, ultrasound lab equipment are going to be all state of art. We're also acquiring multiple COVID-19 test equipment, so we'll have all of those there too.
Well, on behalf of the rest of my commissioners, welcome. And with that being said, if there's no other questions, I'll take a motion.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second. Any other comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. Welcome to Maricopa. All right, guys. Next item on the agenda, report from commission and or staff. I'm still saying hurry up and build. It's going to be full fast.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, the only thing I need to report today is our next scheduled P&Z Commission meeting is for November 9th, second Monday of November. We don't expect to have a commission meeting the week of Thanksgiving, so for sure, November 9th.
We don't have one the 26th, 2 weeks from tonight?
No. Oh, in October? No, we don't have anything scheduled, so.
You're giving us a break.
Right. The other thing, the state of the city, you can still register online if you haven't done so already. And with that, last thing was the last invite for the groundbreaking for the exceptional healthcare facility after tonight's approval. I'll go ahead and send that information out to all the commissioners to attend.
That would be awesome. You send us an invite on that so we can be reminded of that.
That's all I have, Madam Chair, Commissioners.
Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
7:20.
I'll motion.
Okay, awesome. I was going to say, you guys don't want to go home? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, guys. See you next time.
Wants to stay.